happy, and healthy.
This is a series aimed at providing older adults with resources on health, fitness, finances, and other services.
Happy and healthy.
Hi, welcome to Happy and Healthy, a series aimed at providing older adults and their families with connections to community services. I'm Bill Hodges, a volunteer host at TBCN, where you can take video production and have your own show on cable television channels and the internet. Today we're going to talk about stress management. With me, Nancy Teeton, Director of Social Work Services at USF Bird Alzheimer's Institute, Gary Vitaco Robles, Program Manager for Specialized Treatment Services at Northside Mental Health Center, Nicole Crawford, Project Recovery Counselor with the Center. Welcome. Glad to have you all with me.
Thank you.
Welcome, Bill. Thank you.
You know, I think our audience ought to know that if I'd put in all the vegetable soup after each one of your names, it would have added another 15 minutes to the show.
You could have.
It is so wonderful to have such an educated group with us.
Thank you.
And so well able to give us the information we need. You're going to share with us how seniors can maybe look for stress, identify stress. I think that was one of the things that you said, Nancy, was that stress, first you have to know what it is.
Well, the very first thing that you have to do is identify what it is that you're feeling. People will say that they're stressed, but I think that's very much in our language and probably very much overused in our language. And so we kind of pass it off. You know, maybe we get stressed, you know, waiting for the stoplight to change, or maybe we get stressed because our hair is out of place one day. But really and truly, the stress that we're talking about is the stress that's going to take some physical and emotional toll on the person.
What do you think, Nicole?
I think that Nancy's absolutely correct. Many people that I encounter in our work don't even know the first thing about being able to identify their feelings, and that is the primary place to start with gauging what it is that you're feeling and how you can begin to deal with it.
Gary, would you like to weigh in?
Yes, I work with grandparents who are raising grandchildren, and they tell me about the specific challenges in being at a time in their life when they were looking forward to retirement, and now they're in a role of not only maybe taking care of elderly parents, but also their spouses, and now taking care of their children.
You know, that's interesting. I was talking on the internet with someone the other night. They're both in their 70s, in fact, high 70s. He's still driving a truck because their children can't find jobs. And they're all living together, and they're going to have to sell their house. Now, this is stress. How does one start dealing with this kind of stress? And this is happening over and over again, right?
Absolutely. Very multi-generational households nowadays because there's a lot of economic stress. And I think that some of the ways to begin dealing with that is to look for community resources. Look for those people that you can talk to that can help you with those things.
Nicole, you mentioned multi-generational households, but this really takes us back 100 years, doesn't it? Where
Absolutely.
aunt lives with you and grandma lives with you and you all live together?
Yep.
It does. You know, we saw those multiple generational kinds of households really and truly well through the 50s and the 60s. It wasn't really until women started actively working outside of the home on a regular basis that we saw individuals have a more geographic relocation away from their nuclear family networks. And sometimes that's a stressor in and of itself, is that you're away from individuals that can really be your support network. I work at USF Health Alzheimer's Institute, and frequently we'll see an older couple whose children might live in California, and maybe they have another one in Pennsylvania, or they don't have any children at all, so they don't have that support network. And what happens is people are very afraid of other people with memory problems, so they kind of back away from people, and they actually lose their support network. And I think that's something that's really important. There were certainly some benefits to having families living very close together in close proximity, maybe on the second floor of the house or the third floor of the house, or even in the same single ranch style home.
Absolutely.
At least you had someone else there. It could have been a stressor, it could have been a support.
Social connectedness is so important to reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I invite people to look at the major domains of their lives and to see what they're working on in each of those areas. And it's a simple acronym, PEMS, looking at their physical health, looking at their emotional health, their mental health, their spirituality, and their social connectedness. So if someone were just to sit down with a piece of paper and begin to identify, are they actually taking steps in each of those areas? If they create some balance in their life, they're more likely to be resilient in the face of stressors.
Great. Now, how does one do that, though? I live in Sun City Center, and there are an awful lot of people who are 1,000 miles or more away from any family. We become family, I guess,
And
out there. Believe it or not, I had a fellow tell me the other day who Phyllis and I have taken to the hospital a number of times, who is 92 years old. And he heard that I might have to go in for a minor thing. And he says, now you are going to let me take you, right?
Mm-hmm. We can build our own families. Families are not necessarily the families we're born into, but the families that we connect with, sometimes surrounding a geographic location or a common interest, or the interest even of raising children. I've worked with many grandparents who connect with younger parents, and they have children in common, and they can assist each other. The younger parent can lean on the wisdom of the older parent, and the grandparent can feel very helpful in being able to bestow that wisdom upon the younger generation.
Well, being needed is a very important thing in stress management, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It is, and there's also, you know, even if you're isolated from your children, if you happen to have children and they live out of state or a good distance away from you, there are support groups that are available in the community. For instance, the Alzheimer's Association and USF Health have partnered, and we have 2 support groups, actually 3 support groups at the USF Health Bird Alzheimer's Institute. We have a patient support group. We have a mild cognitive impairment support group for people who are having the milder stages of memory problems. And then we have a family Alzheimer's caregiver support group. But the Alzheimer's Association has support groups in every single county, in every single state across the nation. So if someone is taking care of someone who has memory problems, if they don't necessarily have supportive family members or close friends, they can go to those support groups, and they're offered on different days, and you can get online and look at alz.org for the area in which you live in order to get that information. And they're held at local churches, they're held at local community centers. They try to make them available to people at different times of the day or the evening so that you have an ability to go to those support groups. And I know that there's other support groups as well for individuals that participate in your organizations as well, right?
If you're a caregiver, it's very important to take care of yourself so that you can be there for other people. And I use the analogy of when we board a plane, the safety protocol, typically, what do they tell you about the oxygen mask? Make sure you put it on yourself before you can assist others. And so it takes bravery to reach out and ask for help, and there are many resources available, such as the 211 line in Hillsborough County, which is a wonderful networking.
Tell me about that. I'm not aware of it, and I try to stay up on everything. What, 211?
211.
It's the community resource guide, where you can basically from your phone dial 211. There is a direct number that they have, or you can go online to 211, and it lists all of the community resources.
Is there somebody on the other end of it to talk to you?
There's a live
Yes,
person that will pick up the
operator?
phone and talk to you, and actually will help you get to those resources and then call you back.
Really?
To actually see if you got connected with what you needed. I've used it numerous times. I give it to all of my clients. It is a great resource
What
for anyone in
department
the
is
community.
it contained within?
It's not contained with any department. It's with the Crisis Center,
Of
and
Hillsborough County.
it's a
Really?
I believe they're a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
Wow.
But you don't have to be in crisis to call them.
Right, exactly.
It's a general community resources phone number
If
for the
if
community.
I'm feeling sad, if I need anything, if I need help,
And
I can call that
Absolutely.
number and they'll help me.
24 hours a day. There's also a crisis line in Hillsborough County, 813-234-1234. And Northside, my agency.
Now, how do you define a crisis?
Well, for each
mean,
person,
if
it's going to be it's going to be
different.
unique because what one person's optimal level of stress might be, it might not be the same for
I'm
another.
going to kill these kids. I've just had enough of them today.
Well, that's a time to call because
Okay.
if you're really
Exactly.
worried about if you're too stressed out and you might even hurt a child, or you're overwhelmed in parenting, you know, it's definitely better to reach out before it becomes a serious problem.
I don't have to be a suicide in order to call that
Absolutely
number.
not.
No.
And the sooner you call, you know, the sooner that you'll receive some assistance and support, the sooner you'll feel better.
Wow, this is powerful. Really, just this first few minutes.
Good.
This is great.
Northside Mental Health Center now has a drop-in program for assessments. So if you're not sure if your symptoms are serious enough for treatment, or maybe you believe that they are, you can walk in between the hours of 8 and 3, Monday through Thursdays, or 8 and 2, Monday through Fridays, and you could receive a mental health assessment by a mental health professional.
And what is that going to cost?
Well, we accept Medicaid insurance, Medicare insurance, and we provide services to the community on a sliding fee scale. So you can call in advance to see what the fee might be, and you can just drop in within those hours, and you will be seen and linked to services if they're indicated.
Wow.
And at the center, we have family services, and through family services, we've had people just call and say, I'm depressed and I need help. And with that phone call, we'll either connect you with a counselor or set up an appointment for you to come in for counseling. We do family counseling, individual counseling, and it just opens the door for people to have someone to talk to who may not be, who's not a part of the situation, who may be able to give you a different perspective other than what you're currently getting.
And beginning therapy could be kind of a scary thing for people. They might not know what to expect, or they might only see the examples that they see in movies and television, which are really distorted.
Yeah, very
And
much so.
It's a safe experience, and the consumer himself or herself gets to guide the treatment. They get to decide what the goals are going to be and what they wish to work on.
Can we differentiate between stress and depression?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Let's do that a little bit, because you hear a lot of people say, I'm depressed.
Okay.
But could stress cause depression?
Yes.
Stress can cause depression. Stress can be a good thing. For example, maybe we're in school and we have to study for an upcoming exam, and we've waited a little bit too long to study for the exam. So maybe we get motivated by our stress of remembering that, you know, we have the test coming up. So we'll go ahead and study, and then we end up acing the test because we've actually put the time and effort into doing what needs to be done. But stress can also be very debilitating for people. It can actually lead to clinical depression. And frequently, we will ask individuals at the Institute at USF Health, you know, do you feel that you're depressed as part of the comprehensive memory disorder evaluation? And people will often say, no, I don't think I'm depressed, but everybody's definition of depression is different. For one person, it might be they remember somebody being depressed that took their lives, and they're not at that point, so they can't be depressed. But we might also ask them the same question, are you depressed? And they say no, but the tears are streaming down their face. So the clinical indications of depression are things like sleep disturbances and appetite disturbances and loss of motivation, lack of interest, apathy, and even sometimes in the extreme circumstances, wanting to take their own life or the life of the person that they're caring for, or both of their lives. So the good news is that depression can be very effectively treated, and people don't have to live that way.
And culturally, people have to remember that depression is called different things. Some people say they're blue.
Great point.
Some people say they're sad.
Great
Some
point.
people don't even talk about what depression is. Some cultures don't talk about what depression is. So they really have to be mindful of what depression is called in any given culture, because it's different things.
Having said that, let's look back at stress itself. And I'd like each of you to give me a symptom of stress that a person might be having, and maybe a quick background on that stress.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and start. I'll talk about sleep disturbances, and we look at, you know, one end of the continuum or another. So either people are sleeping too much or they're sleeping too little. They may have difficulty getting a sleep at night, or insomnia, some people will call it, or they'll get up in the middle of the night, they won't be able to get back to sleep. They have what's called ruminative worrying, or kind of they can't get their mind off of what they're worried about. So it really interferes their sleep process. So they get up the next morning and they don't feel like they've even been rested at all.
And we've all been there, haven't we?
We've all been there.
Okay.
Yes.
Panic attacks can be very frightening, and people who have them might actually believe that they're having a heart attack, or they're going crazy, or maybe they're dying. And they typically go to a hospital emergency room, and they might learn for the first time that that's really anxiety. And now they might build an anxiety about possibly getting one again. And a lot of time is spent worrying about the possibility of that happening in public, and will they be driving, will they be with their children, what will happen.
Right.
And the heart is pounding, they're sweating, they're dizzy, they're nauseous. It's a frightening experience, and they might pass. You know, I think anyone's experienced panic in the course of their lives. It's very common. But panic attacks that come on a regular basis, or they return, and they begin to really interfere with our functioning, this is when we really deserve to have treatment for that.
Nicole.
Headaches and stomach problems.
Oh, yeah.
Stress can cause those two things, and people think, oh, I'm just tired, so I have a headache. Oh, I don't really feel like eating, but those might be indicators that your stress level has gotten to a point where you need to do something different about it. Maybe like go take a walk, do some deep breathing to kind of bring you back to a normal state, like in panic attacks, trying to breathe your way out of some of those things to kind of bring you back to a level where there might be some normalcy and you can figure out where you're at, what those feelings exactly are.
And you can go both ways with the eating. Eat too much,
Yep.
eat too little,
Yep.
right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely if there's a significant loss of weight due to that appetite disturbance. But in our culture, you know, people report that they soothe themselves and comfort themselves through overeating. In fact,
yeah.
a recent study that was done, women indicate that they tend to turn to that maybe more often than males do.
Well, no, I can sure put it away.
I'm with you on that.
And typically with the overeating, what you typically will tend to see with depression is there's a lot of cravings for sweets, there's a lot of craving for carbohydrates, and really the neurobiology of the brain is that those kinds of chemicals actually help to replicate and reproduce endorphins in our brain that try to stabilize our mood. The only problem with sugar and carbohydrates is that once they've done that, then we crash. So we end up going back into a depressed state, and we've got to, you know, eat that sugar and the carbohydrates again. So any of the appetite disturbances, whether it's a significant weight loss or it's a significant increase in the person's weight.
It's interesting you mentioned endorphins, because one of my mentors was a man named Dr. Norman Cousins. He wrote a book called Anatomy of an Illness, in which he talked about, for really the first time, endorphins and how endorphin theory could make us happy, healthy, more productive.
And that's why
endorphins are important. Understanding endorphins are important.
Very.
And that's why exercise is so important in management of stress, because of the natural release of chemicals that make us feel better.
And we
As
live
long
in
as you're enjoying that exercise.
right.
If you're not enjoying that exercise, then it just adds to stress, does it not?
It could, yes. It's important to find an exercise that fits for you at an impact that meets your physical capabilities.
I do have a question. I'd like to get each of you to tell me whether you agree or disagree. I do not believe there is either bad stress or good stress. It's all stress. How do you feel?
Again,
As far as the body reacting to it.
No, I think there is some good level of stress where we can encourage ourselves to do better, to achieve more. Maybe we feel stress about learning something new, but once we get a little more comfortable with it, then we can free ourselves up to learn new information.
I guess I really wasn't clear on it. That if you pile more stress on top of stress.
Oh, I see.
That whether it be you run a marathon, but you're already stressed out, and the marathon doesn't release that stress, it just puts more stress on the body.
And that's actually,
So we have to be careful of that, don't we?
that's actually called cumulative stress,
exactly.
or add one on top of the other. You know, you can only pour so much liquid into the glass before it's gonna fall over, you know, before it's gonna come out of the glass.
Exactly.
And we'll see that there's a lot of times over people's lives where they've dealt with stress or maybe haven't dealt with it very well, then another stressor comes in and it fills that glass up very quickly, and then it kind of bubbles over. Again, the good news is that there's help for people that are there if you can identify what's going on and you can learn about the community resources that are available.
How do you empty that glass, Gary?
Well, this is why it's so important to achieve that balance, because there's so many things that you can do to guard yourself as new stressors come into your life. And you know, the Western culture and the American culture that we live in, it doesn't really promote a lot of self-care. We're supposed to be productive workers, and we're supposed to give all to work, but we're balancing work and private life. Studies show that people don't feel that their employers really understand the necessity for that. So if we turn to some of the Eastern philosophies, they offer us very simple solutions. Asian cultures have been doing this for thousands of years, and they work. Basic, gentle yoga classes like Hatha yoga is a wonderful way to achieve some balance in your life. Tai Chi classes, which is the Chinese art of graceful movement. All of these involve mind-body connection and breathing control. Relaxation techniques, which are so simple. You can purchase guided imagery CDs with music and a voice that actually guides you through the process. The important thing to learn, though, is relaxing takes practice. It's something we might not necessarily be very polished or good at. And so we have to practice it and repeat it over time and become experts. In the beginning, it might not even bring very much of a relaxation to us, but with practice, we could expand relaxation for long periods of time.
Something that I always encourage people to do is utilize the resources that you have that are free. And I know for seniors, there are a lot of things that affect how they spend their money. So use your local library. Go to your local library, get those guided imagery CDs, get a book on yoga, get a book on gardening, go and take some free classes that they might have. Go to your local community center, your local church, go take a walk. We live in the Sunshine State. Sometimes it's a little too hot in the afternoon, but early in the morning is the best time to get out there, take a walk, do some deep breathing, which will help set you off for a better part of your day and to decrease some of that stress that you have. So I think taking it back to simpler things like being connected to people in your community, saying hi to your neighbors, being close to those people at the local store, that kid that works at the store that you always say hi to and then says hi back. They'll miss you when you're not around. When you're having those stressful moments, they will notice those things. That's how I tell people to stay connected, and that's what I try to do in my own life.
I have to tell you, where I used to live, I had a 3-mile track behind the house. And everybody walked clockwise on that track. But I walked counterclockwise.
You saw their faces.
And every morning I would say hi, hello. And there was a lady who walked that track regularly. Every time she saw me coming, she'd kind of go wide of me, look down and away from me. I'd still say hi, how are you? Keep going. I was gone for 2 months. I came back and started walking. I saw her coming. I expected her to look the other way. I said, hi, how are you? And she said, where have you been? She said, you were the only smile I got every morning.
Wow.
So you never know whose life you're going to impact with that, correct?
Absolutely.
Just being nice.
Yeah.
And it comes back to you multifold.
Yeah. How many people can't learn that lesson?
And it reduces stress. Because when people are mean to us, it's really about them. We don't have to personalize it or take that in or feel negative about ourselves.
But we do take it in.
Yep.
Well, we have this
we process
negative
it.
self-talk.
Right.
It's amazing how cruel and unloving we are to ourselves inside of our heads. We would never dream of being that way to someone we love. So sometimes we really need to be our best friend and distance ourselves from ourselves and begin to talk to ourselves in loving, encouraging ways and nurture and soothe ourselves.
Before we run out of time, and we're surely going to do that, Nancy, would you give us a little thumbnail of your organization? It's been so good to let you come here with us today.
Certainly. The USF Health Bird Alzheimer's Institute, we provide comprehensive memory disorder evaluations for people that are experiencing memory problems. We also help family members, care partners, caregivers to deal with the stress of caring for a loved one that has memory problems, and we have a variety of supportive resources available to them, as well as the good research that we do in the building as well, national and international researchers, and we're the best kept secret in your backyard. There is help, there is hope, we're there, we're available for you, and this program will provide that information to you.
I'm so happy to hear you say there's hope, because
There is.
that's the scariest thing you could give
There
me
is.
as a diagnosis of Alzheimer's.
But there is hope.
Gary?
Northside Mental Health Center has been providing services to the county since 1976, and our mission is to provide high-quality behavioral health services to promote prevention and to improve quality of life and to prevent people's need for psychiatric hospitalization. We have outpatient and inpatient services. We serve people from birth to senior years, psychiatric services, an adult inpatient unit, a mobile crisis team, which can come out and assess folks in crisis, children's unit, adult unit. We even have a special program for people who have been diagnosed with chronic and persistent mental illness.
Nicole?
The center has several programs, including employment services, which helps with job placement. We have Project Recovery, which is a substance abuse counseling program for women. We have the Senior Home Improvement Program, which goes into the community to help seniors rebuild and restructure their houses to make them livable for the remainder of their lives. And we have Family Services, which does individual counseling and family counseling. We're a nonprofit, and I believe we serve over 3,000 people a year.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, ladies and gentlemen, how many wonderful services there are out here that each one of you provide to us. And many of them are at no charge, is that correct?
Yes.
For the most part,
If
or
you-
sliding fee
it's
scale.
fee-based.
Yeah.
If you don't have it, you don't pay it.
We're not going to kick you out the door.
Or it's based on insurance, what insurance you have, and if we need to do something financially, then we can find a way.
Not only that, if anyone comes to any one of your 3 agencies and says, I need help, if
gonna
you
get
can't service them, then you'll send them to someone else, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yes, they will be assessed and they will be linked to services and resources.
Absolutely.
There's no reason for someone to fall through the cracks out there.
Not at all.
There's helping professionals that are very dedicated, that have been with our agencies for many years. They really care, they're very compassionate, and they really want to support our community.
Well,
said.
you 3 are among those helping professionals. I am so impressed. Pam Garon got you all to come on the show with me today, and you have just done a fabulous job of representing your various organizations, but also giving us some really great tips and information that we can go forward on this. So I really appreciate your being with us.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thanks for having us. and-
Nicole,
Our pleasure.
Gary, Nancy,
Thank
thanks
you.
again for being
Thanks.
here.
Thank you.
Thanks for your helpful advice and all the good things you do for us. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next Happy and Healthy show.
Getting health information is a nightmare.
It's all in how you look at it. To you, it's a pile of books and reading until your eyes drop out. But to me, I go straight to NIHseniorhealth.gov, click on what I want, and boom, there it is.
NIHseniorhealth.gov, the medical website created with older adults in mind by the National Institutes of Health.
Getting health information at our age is tough.
Yeah, it's all how you look at it. To you, it's a pile of books and reading till your eyes drop out. But me, I go to NIHseniorhealth.gov, click on what I want, and bingo, there it is.
Well, thanks for the tip.
NIHseniorhealth.gov. It's easy to use. You can make the text bigger, make the contrast better, even make it talk to you. If only everything else out there were as senior friendly. NIHseniorhealth.gov, built with you in mind.